I'm 25 years old, and I've lived in Denver, Colorado, for about 3 years now. I moved here for a job in logistics, mostly just coordinating shipments for a company that handles medical supplies. It's a pretty boring job, honestly. I spend most of my day sitting in a cubicle, looking at spreadsheets and taking calls from truck drivers who are usually annoyed about traffic on I-25. My life is very standard. I don't really believe in anything weird, and I'm definitely not the type of person to go looking for trouble or ghost stories. I prefer just playing video games or going for a hike on the weekends when the weather isn't too bad. The reason I'm writing this down is because something has happened twice now, and it's starting to actually bother me. It's not scary in a movie kind of way, but it's just deeply confusing, and it doesn't make any logical sense. It involves a phone call I get once a year on the exact same day. The first time it happened was November 12th, 2022. I remember the date specifically because it was the day after Veterans Day, and I'd just gotten back to work after a short break. I was living in a 4-story brick building with a rusted fire escape on the corner of Speer Boulevard. It's one of those older places where you can hear the pipes clanking whenever someone turns on the hot water. I was just sitting on my couch around 9:15 p.m., scrolling through my phone and thinking about what I wanted to eat for dinner. My phone started vibrating on the coffee table. The caller ID showed a local 303 area code, which is normal for Denver. I didn't recognize the number, but since I deal with drivers all day, I figured it might be someone from work or maybe a delivery guy who couldn't find the entrance to my building. I picked it up and said hello. There was about 3 seconds of just flat, empty air. It wasn't static or heavy breathing. It just sounded like the line was open, but nobody was there. Then a man's voice spoke. He sounded middle-aged, maybe in his 50s, and his tone was completely neutral. He didn't sound angry or scared or happy. He just sounded like he was reading a grocery list. He said, "The porch light is still on." That was it. Immediately after he finished the word "on," the line went dead. I looked at my screen and it just said "call ended." I was a bit confused, mostly because I don't have a porch. I live in an apartment on the 3rd floor. There's a hallway and a heavy fire door, but definitely no porch. I figured it was just a wrong number. Some guy was probably trying to call his wife or his neighbor to tell them they'd forgotten to turn off a light. I put the phone down and didn't think much more about it. I went to a small cafe with a green awning and cracked windows just down the street to grab a sandwich. And by the time I was eating, I had basically forgotten the whole thing. A year went by. I moved to a different part of the city, closer to Cheeseman Park. I'm now in a grey apartment complex with a modern glass lobby and a gym I never use. Life went on as usual. I got a small raise. I started seeing someone for a few months, but it didn't work out, and I kept doing the same job. Then November 12th, 2023 came around. I had totally forgotten about the call from the previous year. It was a Sunday, and I was just finishing up some laundry. Around 9:15 p.m., my phone rang. I looked at the screen, and I froze for a second. I didn't have the number saved, but I recognized the last 4 digits. I have a pretty good memory for numbers because of my job. It was the exact same 303 number from a year ago. I answered it, feeling a little weirded out, but mostly just curious. I didn't say anything this time. I just waited. The same voice, with the exact same neutral tone, said the exact same thing. "The porch light is still on." The call ended. I sat there on my bed for a minute, looking at the call log. It was exactly 9:15 p.m. I tried to call the number back immediately. I figured if it was a prank, I could at least tell the guy to leave me alone. But when I hit the call button, I didn't even get a ringing tone. Instead, I got that automated operator voice, the one that sounds like it's from the 90s. It said, "The number you have dialed is not in service. Please check the number and dial again. Message OR999. That felt really strange. If the number wasn't in service, how did it just call me 30 seconds ago? I tried calling it again, thinking maybe I'd misdialed, but I got the same message. I even tried calling from my work phone, which has a different area code, but the result was the same. The number didn't exist. The next day, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I'm a pretty logical person, and I figured there had to be a technical explanation. Maybe it was a spoofed number used by a telemarketing company. But they usually try to sell you something or scam you. They don't just say one sentence about a porch light and hang up once a year. I decided to go to a bright blue mobile service store with a flickering LED sign near the intersection of Broadway and 11th. I've been with the same carrier for years, so I thought they might be able to tell me where the call originated. I talked to a guy behind the counter who looked like he was about my age. He was wearing a lanyard and looked pretty bored until I told him what was happening. He pulled up my account on his tablet and looked at my call history. He scrolled back through the logs for November 12th. He frowned and turned the tablet toward me. "I don't see any incoming calls for that time," he said. I pointed at my own phone screen, showing him the call log where the number was clearly listed at 9:15 p.m. "It's right here," I told him. 3035550199. I'm changing the middle digits for privacy, but you get the idea. He looked at my phone, then back at his tablet. "That's really weird, man. On our end, your phone didn't receive any data or voice signals at that time. According to the network, your phone was idle from 8:40 p.m. until you made an outgoing call at 9:17 p.m. to try and call that number back." He then ran a search on the number itself in their internal database. He spent about 5 minutes typing and clicking. Finally, he shook his head. "This number isn't just out of service. It's never been assigned. Not to a person, not to a business, not even to a VoIP service. It doesn't exist in the North American numbering plan. It's an invalid prefix for this area code." I asked him how that was possible, and he just shrugged. He suggested it might be a glitch with my phone's software, or maybe some kind of weird ghost signal from an old analog tower that hasn't been decommissioned properly, though he admitted that didn't really make sense for a modern smartphone. He told me to just block the number and forget about it. I did block the number, but I couldn't forget about it. I spent that night searching online forums. I looked through threads about phantom calls and unassigned number glitches. Most of the stories were about people getting calls from their own numbers or getting weird static. But nobody seemed to have a story about a guy talking about a porch light once a year. I also started thinking about the phrase itself. The porch light is still on. It sounds like a signal or a reminder, but for who? And why me? I grew up in a suburb of Chicago, and our house there had a porch light. But my parents sold that place years ago. I checked with them just to be sure, but they hadn't had any weird calls and they didn't know what I was talking about. I even drove back to my old apartment, the brick building with the fire escape. I stood across the street and looked at the front of the building. There are no porches. There are just windows and a flat brick facade. There is a light above the main entrance door, but it's a standard industrial security light, not a porch light. What bothers me the most isn't the voice or the number. It's the consistency. The fact that it happened at the exact same time, on the exact same day, with the exact same words. It feels like a scheduled task in a computer program, like something is just running on a loop and I'm the accidental recipient of the output. Lately, I've been trying to rationalize it by thinking it's some kind of elaborate prank by someone I knew in college. Maybe they're using a spoofing app and they have a reminder set in their calendar. But I wasn't really close with anyone who would put this much effort into a joke that only happens once a year and isn't even funny. Plus, the guy at the phone store saying the call didn't even show up on the network logs is what really gets me. If it was a spoofed call, it would still show up as an incoming signal on the carrier's side. Sometimes, I wonder if it's a crosstalk issue. I've read that in some older parts of the city, the underground wiring is so old and messed up that signals can occasionally jump from one line to another. But we're all on digital signals now, and Denver isn't exactly using 1940s telephone poles for mobile data. It's now March. November is still a long way off, but I find myself thinking about it at least once a week. I've thought about changing my number, but I've had this one since I was 18. It's linked to everything: my bank, my work, my doctor. It's a huge pain to change it. And honestly, a part of me wants to see what happens this year. I want to know if the block on my phone will actually stop it, or if it will somehow bypass the system. I've also started looking at the porch lights of houses when I'm driving home from work. There's a neighborhood of older Victorian houses near Colfax Avenue that all have big, wraparound porches. I'll see a light on and I'll think, is that the one? But that's a stupid thought. There are millions of porch lights in the United States. There's no logical reason for a non-existent number to call a phone and not leave a trace on the network. There's no reason for the message to be so specific and yet so irrelevant to my life. I'm hoping it was just a massive 1 in a billion technical fluke that happened to repeat itself due to some weird server reset timing. That's probably what it is. A glitch in some outdated routing software that nobody bothers to update because it only triggers once a year. Still, when November 12th comes around this year, I think I'm going to stay awake and keep my phone on the table in front of me. I might even try to record it. I just want to hear the voice again and see if I can catch any background noise. A car passing, a clock ticking, anything. But I have a feeling it will be the same flat, empty silence and the same 6 words. It's just a weird thing that happens, and I guess I have to live with not knowing why. Anyway, I just wanted to put this somewhere in case anyone else has had something similar happen. It's probably nothing though, just a glitch. Probably.